Writing on the wall is clear that what the state of Michigan is doing to invest in corporate giveaways is not working for the state of Michigan.
Calls tonight to get rid of the Michigan Economic Development Corporation over concerns the state agency in charge of creating new business is wasting your tax dollars. Big money is flowing to big businesses in Michigan with the goal of growing our state. But when the promised jobs don't materialize, who pays the price? Good evening. I'm Ann Emmerich.
And I'm David Andrews. Our News 10 Investigates team looks into the projects promised that sometimes never result in a single new job created. Investigative reporter Riley Connell is here in studio tonight to tell us how those huge grants and corporate tax breaks have some calling for an overhaul of the agency behind those deals. Riley?
Yeah, Ann and David, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation is the organization giving most of that money out and has been for years. Tonight, a group of state lawmakers are now calling for the group to be shut down completely to save taxpayer dollars from being wasted.
They're pitched as transformational projects. A massive battery plant in Lansing, another in Marshall, a semiconductor facility in Flint. When large corporations make plans to open their doors in Michigan, they come with the promise of bringing new jobs and millions of dollars to the local economy.
What they promise never happens.
James Homan has kept a close eye on these large-scale projects from his office at the nonpartisan Mackinac Center for Public Policy. Instead of driving business forward, Homan says they've become very expensive disappointments.
Handing out big checks to big companies is not worth it to the overall economy.
Homan and his colleagues studied that trend in this report, which looks at roughly 2 decades of deals. The numbers are staggering. Projects promised 123,000 jobs, but delivered only 11,000, a 91% failure rate.
So companies can collect cash without having to create any jobs at all. And then if they fail to live up to their promises, lawmakers in the future can ask for their taxpayer money back. But sometimes you have to wait 7 or 10 years before you can prove that the company didn't create the jobs that they were saying.
The Michigan Economic Development Corporation is the group behind those deals, an organization tasked with growing the state's economy. The MEDC offers tax breaks and grant money to businesses through special incentive programs. But government watchdogs claim there's no real return on investment, as costly projects frequently fall apart.
Let's not forget that Ford's plans in Marshall, and for that matter in Kentucky, and GM's plans in Lansing both changed fundamentally in less time than it takes me to go through a printer cartridge.
And yet, Center of Economic Accountability President John Mosina says Michigan gave up millions in taxpayer dollars to jumpstart those efforts. Mosina has given testimony before state lawmakers multiple times, stressing his concerns about the state's attempts to grow business. He recently returned to discuss a failed $2.4 billion electric vehicle battery plant deal with China-based tech company Gotion. Since the project was announced 3 years ago, the state invested $23 million, which it's now asking Gotion to repay, claiming the company did not uphold its agreement.
It seemed to me that it would make no sense to make a 30-year deal around a technology that has such an uncertain future.
Lawmakers say they should take some of the blame, not just for Gotion, but also for the dozens of failures that came before it.
The buck stops on our desk as elected officials. That's the system that we've created in government, and it's just redistributing, taking our money, the people's money, and giving it to the politically connected.
Across the Capitol, Senator Thomas Albert is also pushing back against Michigan's economic development practices.
We've made risky investments in companies that I would say should be more of a venture capital type of investment, and we're using state taxpayer dollars for that. Simply put, we shouldn't be using taxpayer dollars to try to run a hedge fund in the state of Michigan.
Albert says the most egregious example was the Strategic Outreach Attraction Reserve, or SOAR Fund. The program launched under Governor Gretchen Whitmer in 2022 with a $1 billion balance. The fund gave more than $259 million just to secure the land for a proposed semiconductor facility near Flint.
We need to add more tools to our toolbox to bring jobs home and keep them here.
Like Goshen, the project fell apart earlier this year after its key investor, SanDisk, called it quits due to economic uncertainty. During a visit to Flint in May, Governor Whitmer set a goal to bring a semiconductor plant to Michigan before the end of her term.
We're not going to beat China by sitting on the sidelines.
Senator Albert voted to approve the creation of the SOAR Fund, but now believes the program never lived up to its hype.
You just cannot do centralized government planning when it comes to economic development. If the deal doesn't pan out, those making the decisions aren't really on the hook for having to pay for it.
The future of SOAR is up in the air after lawmakers decided to leave its funding out of their most recent budget. A spokesperson for the MEDC defended the program, saying it secured more than $11 billion in private investment, plus 11,000 jobs. A written statement to News 10 says, in part, with the shifts in the global economy, the MEDC will continue working with its partners in the legislature on tools and resources that meet this moment in time to position Michiganders for long-term economic success. Homan says it's time for Michigan to stop subsidizing failure.
And when we take $500 million from taxpayers and award it to select private companies, I don't think that's an effective use of taxpayer money. I don't think it's creating the economic development that our lawmakers want, and it's simply not benefiting the public.
And in addition to costs, neighbors have expressed concerns over these big development projects for issues ranging from lack of community input, the environmental impact, and tax dollars going to subsidize foreign companies.
So Riley, why can't the state wait to give that money to these developers when it's finished their development?
Well, it comes down to trying to get the companies to come here in the first place. Michigan competes with multiple other states who also have millions of dollars to put up in grants and tax breaks to get them to go there instead. So they feel like they have to act fast.
So Riley, bottom line, what's the future of the MEDC?
Well, that is the billion-dollar question, David. And, some Republican lawmakers are talking about getting rid of the Michigan Economic Development Corporation altogether. You heard them say it themselves. And perhaps putting a new agency in that would oversee these projects. But as you know, we have a split legislature, so it might be a difficult feat. They might run into some issues of getting that passed by Democrats who might opt to reform the MEDC instead.
All right, great reporting.
Riley, thank you.